Welcome to the first content episode of the Supernatural First Watch podcast. I'm your host, Kimberly, your resident sci-fi and fantasy nerd and geek. So without further ado, let's dive into the one in which we meet the brothers Winchester. So in a pilot episode, there's usually two options for introducing the audience to the world you're about to explore. Number one is to introduce one new person to an established group. In that way, the audience kind of is a fill in for the person being introduced. We get to experience the brand new community as they're introduced to our brand new world. If you're a fan of Fringe, this is essentially what happens. When you get a brand new person who's not involved in the world, who gets introduced in a very interesting method. The other method is to do day in the life, right? Slice of life, day in the life, where we, in incremental pieces, get to be introduced to each of the people that are going to be key for what's going on in the next few seasons of this show. That would be often you'll see in like group ensemble pieces where you meet one person, then 10 minutes later you meet the next, 10 minutes later you meet the next, as the whole group gets assembled. What is really rare is the in media res that we get here. We open up with 22 years ago and the Winchester house in Lawrence, Kansas. Typical family. And it's very interesting that before we even meet the people, we actually get introduced to the past that they're about to explore. And so we meet the family Winchester in their house, a typical family. They have a good rapport. Mom Mary, husband John. She's wearing a really frilly white nightgown for some reason to show how wholesome she is. And there's a little cute boy and a baby. And then you slowly get the introduction to the horror vibe where somebody is standing over baby Sammy's crib, but Mary thinks it's her husband. She goes downstairs, sees her husband watching television, and of course, she's horrified. She runs back up the stairs, but you don't know what happens. She screams. John wakes up. He goes up the stairs as well. And then he sees his nightmare. He checks on the son. Son is fine, but something's dripping on him. He looks up. His wife is on the ceiling, stomach slashed, and then the house gets engulfed in flames. John hands off his brother to Dean. He hands Sam off to Dean, and he says, "Take care of your brother," and they run out of the house. And you're left to wonder, well, what just happened? Cut to the modern day, and we're following one of the brothers. He's a typical college student partying with his hot blonde girlfriend and another random friend. They're out for drinks and they're celebrating. He thinks he's landed a scholarship for law school. And Sam, it seems, is just a typical college dude. Don't know what happened in the intervening years, but everything is A-OK normal. We quickly establish he's not in contact with his family when his girlfriend Jess asks about letting them know about his scholarship, and you're not really sure what the dynamics are. Then in the middle of the night, somebody breaks into his apartment because that's what you do when you're visiting family and you haven't talked to them in years. You break in instead of ringing the doorbell. And we see that Sam is at least trained in a lot of fighting styles. He manages to get into an all-out scuffle with the stranger who turns out to be Brother Dean. They reconnect, and in a rapid-fire brotherly dialogue, we discover that it's been a couple of years since they've even spoken. Sam is fully in the college life and wants nothing to do with what he calls hunting. However, Dean asks to speak alone with Sam once Jessica enters the room, and Sam says, "No, you know what? This is my life. I'm normal. I want nothing to do with the things that go bump in the night." And then Dean drops the bomb. Dad was on a hunting trip. He hasn't been home in a few days. And Sam realizes, oh, while he would love to run away, he probably can't. After getting a promise from Dean that they will go look for Dad, but Sam will be back in time for his interview, he agrees to help out. During this conversation, we're introduced to the Impala. Nice classic car, and in the trunk, it's full of more than just a crowbar and a spare tire. It seems to have a false bottom in which there are all kinds of goodies, weaponry, and miscellanea related to the occult. As Dean scrambles through it looking for something in particular, they discuss their relationship, the fact that there is tension between Sam and Dean uh, and Dad Winchester, and that Sam wants nothing to do with the hunting world. They agree to get together, they will go, they will hunt, they will find Dad, and Sam will be back in time for his interview. We cut to our intrepid travelers going down the open road, and they're headed to Jericho, California, where something is amiss. Driving by a very iconic bridge that you've probably seen in a number of other shows, they happen upon the local cops in the way everything works in TV land, where if you need hints and connections to murders, of course, it's super easy to find. So they happen upon the local police and introduce themselves as U.S. Marshals. We see that they're fake aliases. They have a whole slew of badges depending on the situation. And in this very first episode, in a little twist of very blatant call out, the cops wonder if they're even old enough to be marshals, which is a very good reaction because at the time, the ages of these brothers are 22 and 26. And fun fact, you need to be 21 to even apply to the FBI Academy. So we see the way hunting actually works in the somewhat modern age. We get glimpses of Sam doing the homework ironically, with a nondescript search engine in the early days of the internet, where the internet would return what you wanted it to return on television, but you weren't really sure if that's the way the internet worked, and the variety of search engines without using the big G word. So in this, we get introduced to how the brothers find out about what's going on. They talk to the locals, they talk to law enforcement, and they talk to any witnesses while pretending to be law enforcement to try and get the full story.
So they continue the investigation based off of speaking to the local law enforcement, who mentions that his daughter was the girlfriend of the guy who just got killed. So they go to a diner, they have a little chat with her, and once again, she is really open to sharing what was going on. And of course, they hear this local legend about a girl who died on Centennial Highway, whose ghost hitchhikes. So of course, they decide, you know what, that sounds pretty promising, and they go to check it out. So, they're searching on the net, they're searching on the news. They find more deaths on Centennial Road, and they find a particular article about this potential woman who committed suicide after her two kids drowned. Her name was Constance Welch, and she jumped from the local bridge back in 1981. And that's, of course, the same place where Troy's car was found. So they decide, you know what, let's go check it out. They go over to the bridge. They talk a little bit more. Of course, we reestablish the fact that Dean does have memories of his mother. Sam does not. And Sam's not really, into the whole hunting thing, partially because he's got no memory of life before it, probably. So they get to the bridge, and they spot the ghostly woman in white, and she jumps from the bridge. Of course, while they're watching this happen, the car starts to rumble on its own, and it decides to start going towards them. So they jump out of the way, and Dean dives off the bridge. He's alive, but incredibly muddy. So now they're looking for a place to stay. And inexplicably, when they go to check in, apparently Dean and his father think alike because the hotel clerk notices that they have the same name, even though they are using fake names. And so he mentions that the other guy still had been stayed checked in. And for some reason, gives him the key. And of course, they go in, and it's like a conspiracy theory threw up in the room. It is covered wall to ceiling in articles, in content, in what I assume will be a ton of stories that we're about to encounter over the next few episodes. But they do find the same article, so they realize they are on the correct storyline. And of course, this is when they say, well, if it's a woman in white, she's a spirit. So the way to get rid of that is to burn the corpse. But they know their dad and figure he would have done that. So they go to, figure out if they can talk to the woman's husband first to find out where she's buried. But Dean, he wants a shower and to get something to eat first. So Sam calls Jessica. Of course, when Dean's coming back, we discover that their impersonations don't always hold up because the cops are at the hotel. So he gives Sam warning and he runs for it. He gets arrested and he finds out that he's actually a suspect in the men's disappearances in a complete non sequitur for the guy who literally just showed up after the slew of disappearances. Let's suspect him. But apparently they also thought Dean's father was a bit wary as well because they have his diary for some reason. And they throw it in front of him and ask him what the numbers mean. Now, of course, Dean says he doesn't know, but he's incredibly intrigued just to see the journal in front of him, and you can tell kind of how surprised he is to see this journal on the desk in front of him. So even though Dean is locked up, Sam is continuing on with the case despite his insistence that he doesn't really want to be doing this. And he's talking to Mr. Joseph Welch. And the husband does remember seeing their father a few days ago and asks where Constance is buried. And Joseph explains that they had buried her at the house, but he also finds out that the husband was unfaithful and Constance is the one who killed her kids when she found out, and now she kills unfaithful men on the highway, or that's at least what we are led to believe. So back at the sheriff's station, they're still trying to get anything out of Dean, and he is just not cooperating. But they get an emergency call and leave. It is heavily implied this is a small town. They don't have a huge police force, so they leave him alone in the interrogation room, which of course means he grabs paperclip and is able to pick the lock. As he's leaving, he calls Sam and knows that Sam is the one who actually called in the false police report, which tells me most likely they've done this gig before. Also that, Sam may have wanted to get out of the life, but he still remembers the moves. Dean shares that he's got the journal, and that is concerning because apparently Daddy Winchester doesn't go anywhere without it. So the fact that they found it is a little bit disturbing, and that the numbers are actually coordinates. And he thinks that their father has left Jericho to go there, so they have a clue. But before they can finish, they do have to wrap up this case because, Sam almost drives into the woman in whites, and Dean knows that something is up. Even though Sam doesn't let her in, she apparently can just teleport herself inside, and claims that he has never been unfaithful to a woman in his life. To which the spirit decides she's not going to follow her own stories and says that he will be, and proceeds to try and kiss him. As Sam is trying to fight off the ghost, she keeps saying the phrase we've heard before, which is she can never go home. But instead of it being a sad lament, which most of us have been thinking up until this time, Sam realizes she's actually afraid to go home. So he decides, well, the normal things aren't working, so he'll go and drive to the house. So he drives onto her property, where she gets out of the car and then gets attacked and consumed and melts into a puddle from what appears to be her own children. Dean runs in, and tries to fight them off as well, but they don't need to because, of course, Constance does get killed by her own children.
Now that we've established supernatural and the interactions between everyone, there's a fun few things to explore here. As a pilot episode, it works really well. The action is fast-paced. We get introduced to our beloved characters fairly quickly and with an interesting dynamic. It's clear from the beginning Sam does not want to be doing this, and Dean can't understand why. Dean has clearly been hunting for quite some time, but so has Sam. It's established that they haven't talked to each other in at least 2 years. But they get together, they go hunting, and both of them are very good at it. Sam knows exactly how to do the research and exactly what he should be doing, and they fight well together. They play off of each other well, and it's clear they have some sort of familiar relationship. So that begs the question, how did Sam and Dean Winchester grow up? From the time they lost their mother to now, what on earth has happened to make these two kids so talented at such a young age in hunting down the supernatural? Even though it's been 2 years, which would have put Sam at 20 and Dean at 24 since they've actually spoken to each other. Is that how long Sam's been in college? If he's talking about getting a scholarship for law school, well, that implies that he's near the end of his 4 years, not in the middle. So, when did Sam go to college? How long has it truly been since he's been there? And what precipitated the actual cease in communications? And since it seems Sam and his dad do not get along, why is he intrigued enough to hunt along with Dean? A few things to note. We have our local legend. Oftentimes, the monsters are inspired by local legends. So, in this local legend, Constance Welch is a woman in white. It's a woman that committed suicide and can't find her absolution from what was happening in the real world. According to IMDb, this is based off of the La Llorona myth out of Mexico. Every time we see Constance, she is in a white dress and she lost her children, but she's also inspired to go after men who are unfaithful. I'm always curious to know how a woman figures out a man will be unfaithful by driving by the side of the road, because I guess kindness is overrated nowadays. We also meet some really great characters and actors. Adrienne Palicki, well before her days on The Orville and a variety of other shows, stars as Jessica Moore, Sam's girlfriend. Sarah Shahi, before her turn in Person of Interest, The L Word, and Life, is Constance Welsh. Always fun to go back to these older shows and see the stars before they were famous, if you will. We also meet a few things to note. Dean does not trust law enforcement and he doesn't think very highly of them. But then again, Dean's got the inside track. He knows the supernatural exists and local Leos don't. So, of course, he needs to A, hide the supernatural from local Leos, but he also can't assume local Leos will understand the danger or the research they need to do because they don't know the supernatural exists. We also get a sense that Sam does the research and Dean does the ganking, as they say. For two seeming kids, even though Sam is 22, he's been out of the game and out of contact for at least 2 years. So, how long was it before he left the nest, so to speak? And when he did, they all know some really great fighting styles. They know how to kill the woman in white based off of Dad's simple notes. And they are very talented at using firearms. We've got all the great makings of a pilot here. Really compelling characters, a very interesting story, and somewhat episodic in the introduction of the woman in white. So, questions to contemplate. Where is Dad? Where are they going? What will they find there? And exactly how did Sam skip out on school? He's left. What's going to happen next? We don't know. But Sam is determined to find Dad and get some answers. It seems it's been 20 years since they've really been doing the hunt for whatever killed Mom. But now that Sam's girlfriend has died in a similar fashion, all avenues are open for research again. What's interesting to note is that Sam is a baby. So Sam should not actually recognize the exact scenario in which his mother was found. And Dean was 4 years old. We're seeing that John hands the baby off to Dean outside the room. So did he ever see what really happened to his mom either? Obviously, they've probably been told the story, but would they realize it was the exact same imagery? That's something to contemplate. Can't wait to see where this goes. It's a solid first outing as a pilot episode. And we really get to know the characters very quickly. We come to know that Dean likes to flirt, Sam finds it annoying, They work well together. Sam does the research, Dean does the fighting, but Sam's no wilting flower either, since he puts Dean down in meeting him after 2 years of which he probably, one would suppose, let his skills falter. And something's going on with Dad. So we've got the local legend, we've got the analysis, complete body count on this episode, according to the Supernatural Fandom Wiki, is 5. We have the death of Mary Winchester, although 22 years ago. We have Troy, the hapless sheriff's daughter's boyfriend. Constance's kids, but again, a number of years ago. Constance herself, in her ghost form, being taken out, and Jessica Moore. So, questions to contemplate for the one in which there is a Wendigo. Where are Sam and Dean going? Where will they find? Will Dad be there? And what is going on with the women in their lives getting pinned to ceilings and slashed open? Solid start. Very fun episode to dive into the supernatural. And next time, we'll be diving into episode number 2, creatively titled Wendigo, or I like to call the one in which we meet our first man-eater. Until next time, do be sure to check out the show notes for all of the fun tidbits we talked about today. And you can always reach us on our website and the email listed in our show notes as well. You're listening to the Supernatural First Watch podcast, and our next episode will be on Wendigo.
So they get back in the car, and they share that Blackwater Ridge is where the coordinates lead. But Sam, of course, is really reluctant, but shares, Dean, I'm really sorry, but I gotta go back. And Dean, in a complete reversal of where he was just a few days ago at the beginning of this episode, says, okay, yeah, no problem. And he goes to drop Sam off. So Sam seems happy to be home. Jessica has baked him cookies. It's all sweet and wonderful and reminiscent of the opening scene in his own home, which he may or may not know. He leans back on the bed and feels a drip. He looks up, and Jessica is pinned to the wall exactly like his mother. She bursts into flames, and we don't know why, but Dean also bursts into the door at this same time. He rescues Sam, and they watch as the apartment burns down. And Dean turns to Sam, and he's like, yep, I'm in. We got work to do. So this is a wrap on exactly what happens in the first episode in which we meet the Winchester brothers, and it's a really solid start. It establishes pretty quickly, with very little dialogue, exactly what's going on and where things stand.